Valheim, released 2nd of February 2021 by Iron Gate Studios, is a brutal exploration and survival game for between 1 to 10 players and set in a procedurally generated purgatory inspired by Vulcan culture. In Valheim, you'll battle, build and conquer your way to a saga worthy of Odin's patronage. In Valheim, you'll craft powerful weapons, construct longhouses and slay mighty foes to prove yourself to Odin. You'll explore a world that's shrouded in mystery and discover distinct environments with unique enemies to battle, resources to gather and secrets to uncover. You get to be a Viking. You sail the open seas in search of lands unknown and fight bloodthirsty monsters. Building your Viking longhouses, you'll build bases that offer reprieve from the dangers ahead. You'll customise your buildings, both inside and out, with a detailed building system. Progress through building tiers to upgrade, expand and defend your base. You'll struggle to survive as you gather materials and craft weapons, armour, tools and ships, and defences for your home. You can decorate your hearths and sharpen your blades, you can grow crops and vegetables, prepare food, brew meads and potions, and progress as you defeat more difficult bosses and discover new recipes and blueprints. And to discuss some of the key features of the game, as I said, it is procedurally generated and the worlds are massive. Every biome in the world is immersive and distinct, with unique enemies, resources and crafting recipes to discover. You can of course play alone or with up to 10 players on player-hosted dedicated servers and experience unlimited world creation and enemies that scale in difficulty. There's stamina-based combat that will reward your preparation and skill, and you have to utilise your weapon types with unique attacks, different blocking styles, ranged combat, dodges, parries to be able to fight your enemies. There is a rewarding food system where you can't starve and are not punished for not eating. Instead, you gain health, stamina, regeneration buffs, depending on the foods that you choose to consume. There's intuitive crafting where recipes are discovered as you explore the world and pick up new resources and ingredients. There's a flexible building system that takes structural integrity and ventilation into account. Build a small shelter on an entire village, or make outposts or claim abandoned buildings as your own and then customise to your liking. You can sail boats and ships to reach distant lands and explore the sea that offers riches to claim and of course monsters to fight. And there's epic boss fights that will test even the most prepared Vikings and offer rewards that help you on your journey. Now we'll take a quick moment just to discuss firstly the massive procedurally generated world. Now just to sort of give you guys an idea about what that may mean for those who aren't actually familiar with the concept, the world isn't decided already. The developers haven't said, here's the world, this is it, this is what you get. The world is dictated by the seed that you're playing on, and the seed can be manipulated easily by, whenever you're creating your world, choosing the seed that you actually want to play with. Now you can do many things with the seed. You can put your own letters or numbers in, you can use words, like you can say, I like cookies. And by doing any sort of thing that you type in, will depend on the seed that you get. It will generate the world. Now exactly how that looks, I don't think anyone can really say, as every game has its own seed generator will be slightly different. So when you start the game and you choose a seed, you can have it completely randomized. You can even search online and find seeds that other players have found and said these are really good, or you can type in your own seed, whatever you come up with, and literally just hope for the best. Now, depending on the seed that you've chosen, will depend on how the map actually looks. Now, normally when you start Valheim, all the map is shrouded, so you can't see anything. However, I've used the developer commands just so I could show you exactly what you're going to get when you play Valheim. Now, this is the world of Valheim that you load into, depending on the seed that you get. Now, as you can see, if I zoom right in, this is my starting location. This little point just there on the map. Now, as you start to zoom out, you think, oh wow, that's a lot of land to cover. As you zoom out even more, you realise, wow, that's a lot more land to cover. And as you keep going, you realise the pure scale of the world that you have in front of you. Now, the only thing that I'm going to say is that this map of Valheim looks like a planet. It's not round. I'll let you discover that out for yourself. Go for a sail off to the edge. There's an Easter egg there, I promise. Now, to understand how this works, there are biomes in Valheim, and you can see these on the map. you've got your green areas, these brown areas, the white and the red, and the dark brown areas. Now these of course have names. There's the forest, there's the black forest, there's the swamp, there's the snow. They've got proper names, but for the sake of this video, let me just call them by their colours. It's a little bit easier at the moment. Now in the white areas or the snow areas, you're going to have things related to snow, and same for the brown areas and the desert areas. There's going to be various modules and different things there. Now the biomes matter because depending on what you want to craft, certain things are only found in those biomes. So as you can see by starting on this section of the map here, and you've got a lot of forest region, you've got some snow region, and you've got some swamp region, you can pretty much walk to those biomes to get what you need. Now if you need to go to the desert biomes or go to additional swamp biomes, then of course by looking at the seed of this map that we have here, you're going to need to cross the water, which means you're going to have to sail. So this is where making the Viking longboats come into it. Now also something that's worth pointing out is because the world is procedurally generated, where things are going to be when you start, you don't know. So this is where having 1 to 10 players makes all the difference. Because as you can imagine, if you're one single player and you're trying to explore this whole world, well, you're going to be doing it for quite some time. Now the thing about the exploration is you're not necessarily going to see anything new or anything different just because you go to another area. The grass area or the forest area on this side of the world, unfortunately, is exactly the same as this forest area on this side of the world. There's just more resources. Now here you're asking, why would I want to travel all that distance? Very good question. Now the reason you'll need to travel all that distance is because things in the world do not respawn. When you cut down a tree, it's gone. Doesn't grow back. That's it, it's depleted. Same with any other resource you find in the world. Once you've harvested that resource, that's it, it's gone. You need to go elsewhere to find out. So if on the starting area you decide I'm going to cut down all of the trees that are on this area next to me, you're going to have a very open, empty field, which for those of you who like aesthetics in game, you might not like too much. So I'd highly recommend not just cutting down everything right next to where you are, because it will make the world feel a little bit empty. I'd almost designate an area where you go and cut down trees, because then at least you know that area is a harvested area and it's not going to detract from the comfort or the love you have for where you build your home. If you're anything like me and you like building a home in the game, you're going to want the area to look pretty. I normally don't just build anywhere, I try and find a place that for me looks like a place I'd like to have home in real life if I was in that scenario. Maybe somewhere near the water, somewhere with a nice meadowy field, something with a good view, and you get the idea. So just take it from me, just don't go cutting down everything you see straight away, because you might regret it later on. Now you can of course just start a new map seed if you want, if you've destroyed it or whatever else. Now the other thing about the Valheim map, which I should actually point out, is much like games like Minecraft, you can actually start digging away at the world. Yes, that's right, Valheim has terraforming. So if you want to build a home somewhere and you don't quite like the layout of the land, well, you can dig it down, you can raise it up, you can flatten it, you can do lots of nice neat little things. But that's for a little bit later, I will go into that. Just wanted to give you guys an idea of the scale and exactly what procedurally generated means, that whatever you're playing today is not the same thing that anyone else has probably played, unless you pick the same map seed. So hey look, if you love exploring, Valheim is definitely going to give you that opportunity to do. Now let's have a talk about the combat. The combat in Valheim is not terribly complicated, which for a lot of people is a good thing, and for people who do like a little bit more to happen all at once and more buttons to mash, well then that may not be up your alley. The combat in Valheim could to some seem almost boring or non-existent if you're used to other games that have got 15 buttons you have to press in a row to make some sort of combo. In Valheim it's pretty easy. You see an enemy and you attack it. You use your attack or you block, but that's pretty much it. Now depending on whether you're playing a melee attack weapon or whether you're playing a ranged attack weapon, you're going to have a normal attack or a charged up attack and a block. That's generally how the combat's going to go. Again, it's not overly complicated, but hey, bear with me, because sometimes overcomplicated isn't a good thing. Sometimes you just want something to be simple. Something simple, you can get lost in it and you can enjoy it. You don't have to think too much. And sometimes overthinking detracts from the actual fun of the experience of being immersed in the game, because you're worried about pressing 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 3, 4, 5, 7. And to be honest, that's just like algebra. Who wants to go back to school and worry about how many buttons they have to press? Let's just put that aside. So the combat in Valheim is really quite neat. You don't have to think too much about it, it's easy to do. Did I say it's easy to do? No. Let me go back a step. The combat in Valheim is easy, but it will destroy you. If you're not careful, the mobs will sneak up on you in the middle of the night while you're exploring. They'll come out of nowhere and there'll be 3 or 4 things on you and you'll have to start fighting for your life. Or you'll walk over a ledge, over a ridge somewhere, and you'll run into a troll. And let me just say to you, when you see a troll for the first time, I hope you're wearing underwear that you don't mind throwing out or is easy to wash, because it'll probably scare the crap out of you. This big massive troll will just all of a sudden be there and you won't quite know what to do. But I urge you, go up, face tank the troll, have some fun with it. So when you come across some of these monsters, you need to be prepared that you need to learn how to block, you need to learn when to attack. Now yes, some of the enemies will sort of be taken aback when you hit them, but it's not like other games where just you can run in and just start absolutely whacking the crap out of them. You do need to think about what you're doing. You do need to think about your defense, and of course your health, and your stamina, any buffs you've got going on. Because the more of all that you have, the better you're going to do in combat. So just keep that in mind. You want to try and eat when you go out exploring, because if you don't, well, you are going to feel it in combat. Something that we must talk about when it comes to Valheim is, of course, building your home or your base or whatever Viking longhouse you want to construct. Now, thankfully, Valheim doesn't really limit you too much. Yes, there are some constraints which come into play with their structural integrity system. Now, generally, the way that you're going to know how that's working for you is anything considered an anchor point or something that is a bottom section that is considered to be one of your foundation pieces will generally highlight in blue. So anything in blue is a good thing to start with as your base, because it means it's a foundation and it's as strong as that particular piece can be. As you build upwards, pieces will delineate by having either a green colour or an orange colour, yellow colour or a red colour. Now, I don't have to tell you what red means. Red is bad. So if something is showing red, it's probably not going to have much structural integrity, and as such will compromise anything that you're building near or around it. And yes, as you place a piece, it will degrade and it will fall down. One of the key features of their building system is, of course, their strength system, which comes into play when it comes to weather and how strong a building piece is. So yes, weather will start to damage your building, so you need to be mindful of that, as well as the actual overall strength. The more anchored something is to the ground, the stronger it is, and the higher you can go. Now, I hear a lot of you saying, cool, does that mean that if it's strong I can just build up as high as I want? Well, no. They still want to preserve some semblance of realism by not allowing you to build superstructures. If you want to build superstructures in the game, then obviously going and getting a third-party mod for the game to allow you to do just that will be what you'll need to do. And look, there are a few things around for Valheim that will allow you to build to your heart's content. Or if you're someone that does like to try and stay within the game and enjoy what the developers want you to enjoy, trust me, there's plenty of things you can do that are within those limits. There's quite a large number of building options that you can have, and really if you want to try and build any sort of house, there's quite a lot you can do. Now, when it comes to unlocking different pieces, will depend on what you've actually picked up in the game. You can build from stone and you can build from wood, but obviously to do that you're going to need the right benches. Now, anything that you build out of wood will need the appropriate workbench to build your wooden home, and if you want to build things out of stone, then you'll need a stonecutter's bench. Now, obviously, it's not just the home you can build. You can insert grass in areas to make it look like it's still in a nice field. You can lay down stone paths and many other things that will allow you to build the sort of home that you really want to build. The imagination of the individual is really the only limitation to what you build. Now, if you're anything like me, the first time you play most games where you can build a home, you normally end up building just a square room with a roof and trying to work out exactly what you can do and what your limitations are. So look, don't be discouraged if your first home in Valheim is just a box with a roof, because hey, we've all been there and that's where we all start. Once you start to realise how all the pieces actually come together, that's when your imaginative juices will start to flow, and you'll really start to say, hey, look, maybe if I try this, I'll get that, and you'll start to discover some new things. Now, of course, you can actually go online and find some examples of some absolutely beautiful homes that people have built, and let me just say that it's endless what you can create. The imaginations of some people are just incredible. I mean, I didn't think that there was this sort of variety of things you could do, and if you want to download one of the mods to go and unlock building potential and place things wherever you like, some of the things you can build are just truly remarkable. I mean, you can build spaceships and you can build imaginative tree houses that probably make no sense to anyone else, but you can just have some fun with it. So Valheim, if you decide to play that way, can truly give you some creative freedom as far as what you want to do. If you want to keep it real, then of course you can do that too. No one's going to judge you if you decide to build a normal looking house. Something that I do find intriguing about Valheim is the fact that the world feels immersive in a way that if you choose and you're playing by yourself, well, you could just go and build yourself a little village somewhere. Build 2, 3, 4 or 10 little huts that maybe have their own purpose. You know, build one little house where it's just where the bed's going to be. Or you can build another house where you choose this is going to be my crafting station. Make a mead hall with some beautiful artwork and some tables and chairs and a makeshift bar if that's where you want to relax after a hard day adventuring. I mean, you really can do whatever you want if you're that kind of role player, and believe me, it's actually quite fun to construct these little towns for yourself. A lot of the times people don't think to have that imagination, but in Valheim, building a home is one of the things that I think is really driven to the player base to start constructing a home and giving the world a sense of where your home is and where you hang up your sword at the end of the day. So don't feel embarrassed if all you want to do is play Valheim to build a home, because it can be quite a lot of fun. Now, you can of course enable developer options and make your buildings for free, but that really does take away from the accomplishment feeling that you'll get when you go and harvest all the wood you need, get everything together and build it after spending many hours or however long it might be constructing the perfect home. So why don't you go out, explore the world, see what it has to offer, bring back some materials and start putting your home in place and having that lovely base that you can come back to once you've slain all the enemies. And of course, speaking of enemies, Valheim has no shortage of them. Of course, you have all the what we will like to call low-level enemies, but which might be skeletons or zombies or whatever it might be that's just running around the world normally. There are, of course, bosses, which are the main feature of Valheim and are how you prove yourself to Odin. So, of course, the bosses, there are 5 of them, all of which have their own unique style and what they are and their offensive abilities, and of course how you summon them. Of course, once you summon a boss, that's when the battle begins. Now, of course, as we did say that you can play with your friends, the more people that are playing will increase the difficulty. So attacking a boss as a solo player will be a certain level of difficulty compared to if you were playing with, say, 10 other friends. Now, the bosses, as I said, have got their own abilities, which how they attack you and probably the best way to attack them. And of course, there are ways you can cheese different enemies if you're that kind of a player. But of course, you need to be with your wits, because if you are not, the bosses will destroy you. They are not just easy things to kill and will take a little bit of planning. So, as you level up and you progress and get more gear and find the food items to increase your health and regen and stamina, that's about the time that you decide to go after the next boss. Now, generally speaking, the progression will make sense. You generally won't find the next boss location until you're ready to find the next boss location, and you certainly won't be fighting that boss until you're actually into the biome where they exist. Each boss will be in the next biome, so as you progress and you are discovering new biomes and are making the gear applicable to those biomes, is generally when you'll come across fighting those bosses. So don't worry that you'll find them a little bit too early or be undergeared or underprepared for it, because again, even once you do find the boss, you have to summon it. It doesn't just randomly appear in the world. But of course, be prepared that if you die to the boss, your stuff stays on your body. That's right, if you die in Valheim, all of the stuff that you were carrying drops to the ground, which means that when you respawn, you've got nada, absolutely nothing. So make sure before you head off to the boss, you've crafted a spare set of gear and food items so that if you do die and perish, you've at least got something to go back and try again with. because there's nothing worse than losing everything and then having to start over again before you can go back and try, especially if you got really close to defeating that boss. You might have got it down to where it only had a couple of hits left remaining and you realise where your mistakes were. You really don't want to spend 2 hours grinding to make some more gear to go back and just fix that mistake. So, pull out the next slot of gear from your chest and go back and have another go. Go on, it'll be fun. What's the worst that could happen? You die and lose it all again. Now, while I could sit here and make this video infinitely longer by discussing things which you'd see in many other games, such as the crafting and the boats, which are probably the only main things that I've left out at the moment, honestly, the boats, well, like in any other game, it's a boat. You build a boat and you sail across the water. Don't really need to explain that. Except that there might be a few little surprises waiting for you in the ocean if you go exploring. And as far as crafting goes, well, again, let's be honest, like any other game, there's a level of crafting where you make weapons and armor and other tools. So again, I probably don't need to bore you with those details because, hey, look, yes, there's crafting in Valheim. So let's get down to what we're all here to actually find out, should I or shouldn't I? Now, something that I'm trying new for this video is a gauging system, which I think a lot of people might appreciate, others might not appreciate, but it'll help me better describe certain sections of the game and any game that I review and give you an overall score to whether you should or shouldn't. So let's talk about the graphics. Now, the graphics in Valheim are what they are. I'm not going to say they're groundbreaking or beautifully stunning because they aren't, but for this type of art style that they are, they can be. Well, depending on who you are. I, for one, find the art style and the level of graphical detail actually to be quite good. I don't think that anyone can complain that Valheim looks terrible, unless of course you're after that slightly better look than what the pixelated graphics of Valheim are. It's the art style that they've gone for, and we have to appreciate that with different art styles, it can be either good or bad within that art style. So graphically speaking, as far as the details go and the world that they've presented before you, it's fairly good. I mean, I haven't really played too many other games of this particular art style. Certainly haven't tried Minecraft or anything like that, and I realise Minecraft is again slightly different art style again, but for the type of art that Valheim are using for their graphics, I have to say I am impressed, and it is a good looking world. Now, as far as the detail goes within the game, which I think we can be said to where you can go and things you can craft and things you can build, detail in Valheim is really quite high. There's a nice building system with terraforming that you can engage in, so of course for the people that want to do that, that's going to be right up their alley. There's certainly no shortage of things that you can build or places you can explore or little tweaks you can make to the world, so the detail that they put into Valheim, again, that's rating quite high on my scale, so I have to congratulate the developers on that. Now for the gameplay and how much fun it is, look, it is. There are many games that you might play through and something might seem boring or the combat won't be there or whatever else, but I gotta tell you, Valheim, when you play through, it is a lot of fun. It's not necessarily easy, so there's a good level of difficulty there, and as you play through, well, yeah, it is actually a bit of fun to play through. I can't say playing through Valheim I ever felt bored or was uninterested in what I was doing, even from fighting the mobs to finding the bosses and trying to defeat them. It was a good bit of fun that actually kept me fairly engaged. Replay value. This is something that after spending many hours playing Valheim, I think the game falls a little bit short, sadly. Now, the replay value is something that some people will obviously judge differently based on who you are and what you get out of a game, so of course this is my opinion. Now, the replay value for Valheim, once you've completed all the bosses and built a home and explored everywhere, that's kind of it. I mean, yes, you can go and attack the bosses again, but you're not going to feel any better about it. It's defeated. So, if you're the sort of person that's looking for endgame content, sadly it's not really there in Valheim. So I'd have to say the replay value is quite low. Now, that said, getting to that point endgame where you'd be looking for that replay value will take you some time, and if you stop to smell the roses along the way, it really is not going to bother you too much. Now, if we take all of that into account, on our should I or shouldn't I scale of whether or not we should or shouldn't try Valheim, we come up with a score of 71 out of a possible 100. which tells me that if I were you, I would certainly go and try Valheim. Yes, the graphics are really nice to look at, there's a lot of detail in the world, and it's a lot of fun to play. There won't be a lot of replay value once you get near the end, but hey, you'll have a lot of fun getting there. So if you've got the spare cash, why not head over and pick it up and have fun, and why not spend some time building some buildings or really exploring the areas and having a good lot of fun. That way you'll get a lot more enjoyment for your money, and you won't look back at the end game and say, oh, is that all I had to play? If you try and rush through, then it look like any game. If you try and rush to the end, you're going to have not a lot to do. So I would highly suggest not doing that. So with all that said, I thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video, and hopefully it's explained a few things about Valheim and has helped you make up your mind whether you should or shouldn't buy it. While you're here, why not leave a comment? Tell me if you've already got Valheim and what you like about the game. Or why don't you tell me how wrong I am about some of my impressions on the game? I'd love to hear them all, and I would like to respond to as many of you as possible, so hey, get to commenting. And look, of course, while you're here, why not hit that notification bell, subscribe and like the video. Believe it or not, all those things actually help the channel and help me realise what you guys want to see and what you like and what you dislike. So, thank you very much for watching this video on Valheim, and as always, stay safe and see you on the next one.